here. So I can call the meeting to order at 4:23. We have a quorum. Could I have an oral roll call? You start up there.
Everyone comes here.
Susan Dominicani here.
Vicky Monaco here.
Kate McDonald here.
Ryan Sanders here.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Hello.
Hello.
And I will read the school verse. This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here. Love of one another, love of our school, love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school. Do we have Jim? Just curious. Out of order.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim. So 1.4, do we have any audience that needs to address the council? The committee? No, and do we have agenda modifications? No, I hear no comments from anywhere. Do we need a minute to read the minutes from December 13th? What's the usual procedure
I generally try to read them before.
before we get here? Okay, is that all right with everyone? All right, so if there's no opposition, we can approve the minutes from December 13th. Do we need a motion?
I will move to approve the minutes from.
Well, we usually, if just to do all of the consent agenda, is that the only thing? Or no? Do we have? Yeah,
The consent agenda is only for the charter council.
never mind. I'm confused.
Okay,
Okay, go. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have.
so we're okay, agenda modifications, there's no. And then 1.6, we've got a motion on the floor to approve the December minutes.
I can second that.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Okay. Item 1.7 is,
If we need to vote on the minutes.
oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Any further comments on the minutes? Okay, and could we have an oral vote, please?
Everyone comes, aye.
Susan Dominicani, aye.
Vicky Monaco, aye.
Kate McDonald, aye.
Ryan Sanders, I.
Thank you. That's all 5 of us. Good. Yeah, you guys keep an eye on me. And the teleconferencing, item 1.7, we've got teleconferencing continuing with the state of emergency. And that's about the only comment we need on that, right? Excellent. Financial reports, charter impact monthly report. Hi, Jim. I'm Vicki. I'm a retired teacher and grandparent of a student at the school here, so look forward to meeting with you. I'll be the board rep from now on.
Okay, great. Great to see you here. Unfortunately, because of our proximity to the winter break, we don't have the report yet. So we should have that probably Friday to get it to the full board. 2 thoughts. One, on a continuing operations basis, I would say I don't see any changes from what we've been discussing up to now. But then the other side that we'll follow up on is updating where we're at with attendance. So we're still operating on an early revenue assumption on attendance. So as we go over the next 2 months, we'll really be updating what we think attendance revenue will be for the year. But expense wise, organizationally, it's still the same as we've been discussing today.
Okay. Basically no change with the caveat that attendance is still an issue.
Yeah, and then we'll have that for the full council. They weren't all back in time, so
Okay.
we'll have that at the end of this week.
Thank you, Jim.
Alex, I think we'll need to notify the board that the finance committee was not able to review the report, so they'll need to take a little extra time to look at those, so that they need to realize that they haven't been pre-evaluated for them or recommended.
So the monthly report needs to be looked at closer than
Yeah.
normal because we haven't been able to see it.
So Jim, will you be able to, you're always there, so I'm just saying this. The work that you usually do here in explaining things will need to happen at the board meeting. So
Yes, exactly.
to that level of
Okay.
question.
Good, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Susan. And nothing to vote. Notice to the board. And you're down to 2.2 point of sale transactions in the check register, or is that part of the financial?
That would be part of the packet.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question for Maggie. Do we have a credit card statement yet?
No, we just started spending this
Okay,
month, so
all
we
right.
won't see a credit card statement
Until next month, okay.
And we really haven't spent that much, so it's gonna be a pretty small bill.
What are you looking for?
I am just wanting to make sure that the credit card statement gets reported here, so everybody gets to see it and we don't miss that
That's
as
right.
we're implementing this. So that, I
So,
can see that
okay.
as coming under like a 2.3 and
Uh-huh.
future agendas, so.
Got it. So in addition to the sale transactions and check register, there's gonna be
A credit card
a
statement.
credit card statement with
Mhm.
a great deal of our expenses on there. Got it.
All those hamburger buttons we bought this month.
Yes, the hamburger buns.
Yes, so that's it this month.
All right,
Mm,
that sounds good. Thank you. And moving on to item 3. Are we there? Okay.
Short meeting. Okay.
Business, we've got the ASES grant, which, what does that mean?
It is the After School Education and Safety Grant. This actually came to my attention because Jim sends out a due date list, and this was on the due date list, and so I started to look at it. And so I'm requesting permission to apply for this grant. I believe, if I'm understanding the numbers right, that it will garner us between 40 and 60,000 a year. And it is for after-school programs for middle and high school students. So that would allow us
Oh,
to pay
excellent.
stipends to coaches or teachers or community members that would help to run our clubs program. If if you're keeping up to date on what O'Reilly is doing with the after-school plan, we're really looking at we offer now handwork after school, we offer homework help after school. We have a meditation club, those sorts of things. Actually, it's not called meditation, it's called mindfulness. So those sorts of things that if we had this funding, we would be able to do a little more focused, just to make sure that we have the funds to do what we already have a 90,000 for the after-school program. This would just be augmenting that. If we can get it, it is tight. It's been in existence a long time, and so it's only money that somebody else has decided they don't want that we can get. So it's tight. We may not get it, but the other side is you write it and you keep writing it until you get it. So
You know how much it is?
it's about $10 per student per day. So I am estimating 40,000, depending on 40 as the lower number that we would get.
Okay.
So can you roll down and show them the rest of the document, Alex, when you have a chance? So those are the two paragraphs.
So is it, about $10 per student enrolled in after-school programs or just enrolled in our school, in the middle school?
It is based on the school
Program.
enrollment
Okay,
and CalPADS. So it would be the middle schoolers, based on the number of middle schoolers we have, I believe.
Total population,
Really?
not just in the program.
Calculated from the number of students that a program hopes to serve, or it maxes at that, I should say. So I think that I estimated 20 to 30 middle school students that we might serve with that.
Okay, well, personally, I'm not looking for any type of stipend for just doing my normal homework club. I want to throw that out there. My only concern would be if we create clubs that are all just fun and stuff that we might, that are more geared towards enjoyment and less towards academics. Or other, I don't know, I could lose homework club customers. That would be my own concern.
do you lose homework club customers to like handwork club?
I don't know how many kids are in Hancock. I think it's about 50-50. Half were with her and half were with me after school.
But there's value in handwork.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
I
is.
mean,
I'm
there's
not
value
criticizing
in,
it.
I'm not looking at like doing 3 or 4 in it. I want to make sure that we are covered, including Thursdays. We are covering after school every day
Well,
until
That's a good
4:15.
point, Thursday.
So I wouldn't probably change, I wouldn't have more than 2
Okay.
and probably in any day. So things like, that have been talked about, would be like the sports club, basketball or something like that after school. And just making sure we can support that without having to charge students for it is really my hope.
you mean 2 programs running?
More than 2 class, I wouldn't have more than 2 classes like homework and handwork or homework
On the same
and
day.
basketball.
Got it.
Because that's getting up to 50 kids, which is possible to serve, which is more than enough.
Yeah.
So, and I
Okay.
don't really want more than, I'd rather stay around 30 after school because it gets pretty busy, Yeah, anyway, so it's a high percentage, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we have 70. But no, we have 90 total possible students in those 3 grades.
I really think,
So,
from what I've heard over time, that the Thursday support for parents would be really good, in terms of keeping up enrollment.
And that closes this. Do we need a vote on this?
yes.
All right. Do we have a motion on the ASES grant for after-school funding?
I will move to propose accepting the ASES grant and sending it to the board for approval.
Thank you, Sharon.
I can second that.
Thank you, Kate. And we have do we have any further discussion? Questions and votes, starting with Sharon.
Kyron comes back.
Tyra.
Okay.
Susan, I'm gonna get again.
Vicky Monica, aye.
Kate McDonald, aye.
Brian Sanders, I.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Good one. I hope that comes through. Second interim report, 3.2 under business. Is that, who is that?
That would be Jim.
Jim's.
So we have 1 more month on that one. That's the January actuals. So we'll come back in February when we have the January results. So we had in December, you report out the October actuals in the first interim. And so second will be January. So when we have that, then we'll present. That's why we want to make sure and get the attendance updated. And then we'll convert that. So we can keep that as a carryover to next month, but nothing needed this month.
Thank you.
So I move we table that till February.
Do we need to vote on that?
No.
I agree.
Sounds good to me.
Nobody's disagreeing with you, Susan. That's a
All right.
good thing. And the lease extension, do you have info on that, Susan?
Well, let's do the SARC first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right, and yeah, and then I do have information. So we are required to post the school accountability report card by the 1st of February. So we're reviewing this at this point. However, the state of California has not yet released the available data and has not provided us with information as to when they will release the data. We have to, they collect the data, our test scores, our information on our teachers and so on. They put it into DataQuest and then we can download it from there. And even though we could potentially put that information in, we are not allowed to. So even though we know it and we've talked about it here, we have to wait until the state has released it from their sources. And so if you look at the SARC, there are a lot of blanks. And that's the best we can do right now, but we still want to meet the deadline of posting it by February 1st. So we're reviewing it at these meetings. And then when we get more information, it will get updated. So we are asking for approval of it with a caveat that we know that there's a lot of missing data.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Anybody have a motion to accept the SARC in its incomplete form? Is that all right?
I can make a motion to recommend to the board to accept the SARC in all of its blank spots.
I will second Kate's motion.
Thank you. And no further comment, we will vote.
Cameron Thomas, aye.
Susan Dominican, aye.
Vicky Wanacott, aye.
Kate McDonald, aye.
Ryan Sanders, aye.
Thank you. Item 3.4, lease extension.
Okay. Yes, so this is the basically, we're asking for an extension of the lease from this year for 2 more years. And that they have agreed to a 3% annual increase, which in this time is very good. I'll give you more information on that later. And then no real changes with the option, I believe, that we could opt out in July of 24 if we are ready to move at that point.
Sounds hopeful.
Yes.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, when could the exit date be?
It would be July of 2024.
So we have to be here.
Potentially up to 25.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they're giving us up to 25 if we need that much time.
Okay.
but we could get out in
In
July
of 24,
without any
if we're ready to,
consequences.
without any consequences. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the good news is that it doesn't look like they've really increased our rent horribly. If it's $1.10 per square foot at 48,000 square feet. Because it's always hovered around 50, right?
It's actually closer to 60.
Oh, now it's up there.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
well, yeah. Considering that, so I'll just say that considering our previous lease was based on COLA and our COLA was 12% this last year. And they didn't get 12% and now they'll only get 3% next year. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the CRESA worked with them on stabilizing that. And I have appreciated working with the real estate brokers who have a good understanding of charter needs and this sort of negotiation. So they're very helpful.
Very good. And we need a vote to accept this lease extension with the Lee Brothers.
Mhm.
Can I?
You can.
All right. I move that we accept this extended lease agreement with the Lee Brothers for our school site.
I will second the motion, Vicky.
Okay. Questions, comments? And an oral vote.
Hiram Combs, aye.
Susan Dominican, aye.
Vicky Longcott, aye.
Kate McDonald, aye.
Ryan Sanders, I.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And 3.5 is our final item under business.
Okay, without doing a lot of reading, I'll just go over it. We have our new executive director, assistant, excuse me, I'm not leaving. Assistant director Amanda is on site. She is,
Okay.
I feel like doing really getting in and doing some good work on behavior, on scheduling for aides and working in the classrooms and so on. So been really appreciative of her. This is her second week. She's a family day vacation next week, so she'll be gone. But then she'll be back and really moving more into an even more active role in what she's doing. She's kind of just been learning right now. We are still working on aide support because we just the aide that we had planned to hire just agreed to be our long-term sub for Jennifer. So we're back sort of in that poor first grade position we keep trying to fill, and we keep finding other reasons to use our person. We're working on Spanish to Rebecca, who has been covering that class, was accepted into the intern program. So she will be doing some work with Kate to do training for multiple subjects. So we're going to have to do some changes to Spanish schedule. That'll happen. Just talked to co-chairs about it today, talked to the upper grades teachers because that affects them a lot. And so we will have a schedule set up by the 23rd. I know that's something teachers I've been concerned about. I'm going to roll it down a little further. LCAP and strategic plan has started. We'd had a brief review of what the LCAP was, and I'm not sure that anyone but myself knew what LCAP stand for. So,
I did.
oh, okay, okay.
Because one time
Maybe
I
a
was
couple-
embarrassed that I got one of the letters wrong.
So
Local
it-
control accountability plan.
very good. Okay, so we are beginning to work on that, getting the input on where we stand on the current LCAP. We've established the goals for the year in the LCAP now, so most of it is just how are we doing on that. However, the strategic plan is due for an update this year, and so I'm hoping that in April, May, we'll have a meeting on that and really bring that broader attention. One of the questions I get is what's the difference? So the LCAP is the required document from the state, which really focuses on how we're going to spend our money and very measurable goals. The strategic plan is more visionary. It's more like, what do we want to do? Where do we want to be? And from a broader standpoint, the LCAP has the 8 items, priorities for the state. We set our own priorities, the Waldorf schools. So they fit together a lot, but they are 2 different documents, and both often the LCAP goals will support the strategic plan. So there's some work we're getting done, beginning to start now.
I have to ask kind of a tough question here. It says transportation, but it says the second area is to focus on science instruction and scope and sequence for our school, but you did remark that our school is doing very well in science.
We do, I have said that, and our test scores for science are above the norm for the community and of Chico. So my discussions with those who brought it up to me, I see an important, really thoughtfulness needed on the scope and sequence, but not to be sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because we really, Waldorf does have a good way of teaching science. They actually meet a lot of the process standards, but not necessarily the curriculum standards. So if we've made a decision, for example, to teach cell biology in 7th grade and the Common Core standards say, and this is less like me talking off the top of my head, so there's no factor, say that we should do it in 4th grade, then we need to have a reason as to why we're doing that, because that reason can be the difference as to whether our 7th graders who move out of the area are really ready for 7th grade curriculum in another school. So those are decisions we need to make thoughtfully, which we really haven't done yet. So that's what that is about as far as the LCAP and strategic plan goes. We do well in science, we teach good science. We also have teachers that are like, oh my gosh, I need to do this experiment and I'm kind of scared about that. So, or I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So we also, that sort of support on the back end of making sure that teachers have what they need to do what they need to do, and maybe a lesson plan to support them. That sort of work as well, just to structure it better. Because we can get better at our scores, even though we're already good. We can't get better.
I know, I just think there's lots of things to consider there. Right now it's the job of the Waldorf teacher to teach science. So if they're no longer teaching science and someone else is, perhaps then, their job responsibility is just lower. But I'm sure we'll have a big discussion about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area that we need to be purposeful in our instruction that we really haven't had the purposeful discussion about. And so that's really what that is.
And we're not talking about taking science away from the classroom teachers,
No.
that it's just making a more formalized scope and sequence and looking at how we are addressing everything in all of the grades.
Yeah,
right?
giving
And
it
why we are.
language
Yes.
and structure
Well-
and why.
And I'll be honest, there have been proposals for a science teacher for the upper grades, like we need somebody that teaches science in the upper grades. So I'm not gonna say that won't come up, but what needs to come up is what needs to happen is the discussion, the planning on it, much like we've done with ELA. Strengthening our ELA by having a better structure. The same thing I think needs to be done for science, what I'm hearing.
I'll have opinions on that discussion.
You were not the only one.
I know.
Always have, I love our intentional discussion. All right, and then the last is we received the NVCF grant. We applied for the California Community Grants. Riley continues to work on the preschool and after school program and roll it down. I forgot what else I said in here. And that's it. And then the two other things I wanted to bring up, we did postpone the audit from December until we have now until the end of this month to do it. And we have uploaded all the information to the auditor. So they should be getting back to us within the next 2 weeks. And then the governor posted his January update on next year's budget, came out today. And so I'm sure Jim will be talking more about it in the future. I mean, literally it came out today. So I looked at it briefly. He's proposing an 8.13 COLA for next year. Seems to have a lot of, again, one-time funding, which are things that we we're happy to get it. We're always disappointed it's one time, because that means they'll give it to us for a year and we have to figure out what to do with it for once. And it's hard to pay staff for that. That I thought it was interesting that he outlined estimating sped of 1 in 8 students.
Wow.
Which is an increase. Not surprising from other trends I've seen, but it was interesting to see that in the governor's budget, that that's what he was looking at.
So what, do you think that reflects better diagnosis of learning difficulties or an actual epidemic of learning difficulties? You see what I mean?
think that learning difficulties were exacerbated by COVID and
Okay.
distance learning. So I do think that things that we might have been able to do better on site, we have struggled with, and then that's education as a whole. I do think that there is a more interest and willingness of parents to have their child assessed. Whereas historically it was seen as something we didn't want to do. Parents are more interested in getting that done and getting the extra help. So it's become more acceptable to be in special
Right.
I
education.
agree.
It's easier to get the help.
Yeah,
And I also think some parents are, or more parents are really like, I won't say aggressive, but really driven to get their children in special education.
I do think also as we understand disabilities more, and we see them more as differing abilities rather than disabilities, that we are seeing a change. There was a change a couple years ago in SPED. See if I can make sure I use the right terms. It used to be about whether or not there was a difference between what the difference was between the students' ability and their achievement. And so if we said, well, this student has a low ability, they can be disqualified from special education because they weren't going to be able to achieve anymore. And now they've changed that model. So actually there is an increase in qualification as well. So they've changed
According
it.
to what is actually accomplished.
As what the need is rather than what the result
Right, good.
is. So it's, so there's that change also, which
It's a much better assessment.
it is a better process. So we appreciate that. So that's my response on that. So anyway, so that was exciting to see it out, and I know that there'll be more workshops and assessments on it. And of course, it is just the January. There'll be, the legislature will come back and say what they think. The finance office will talk about what they want. There'll be a May revise. So it really is just the first step, but it was interesting to know that they are looking at still considering increasing or maintaining or increasing the funding. They are trying to get us up. It seems like they're trying to get California up closer to what the average is in the United States instead of where we've been, which is in the bottom 20%, so 20, 25%. So that feels good as far as the future goes.
Mhm. Do you think it'll change our SPED population?
And
And just in general, as it might change?
our SPED population is going right along with everybody,
Everybody else?
in the district. We run just slightly lower than the district. But we usually catch up to them during the year.
Mhm.
So, and the reality is that an elementary school is likely to have fewer special ed students because it takes us a while to actually assess and
Right,
determine the needs. So, so those first, like kindergarten, first and second grade, you often have fewer special ed students because we haven't been educating them long enough to
know.
actually have the information we need to be able to place them. in
Were
special
we running
education.
higher than the district in past years?
No.
I felt like one time we were really high.
No, Chico Unified has always had a high level of special education. it's been higher than many districts around the area. So we were higher maybe than the average in the state, but not necessarily higher than Chico Unified.
Are we finished?
I think that's it.
All right. I adjourn this meeting until Tuesday, February 14th at 4:15. See you all there.
And thank you, Vicky. Excellent
Yeah.
first meeting. You did a great job.
It's gonna be